Identity is quite the hot topic these days in the West, with the woke mind virus having spread like wildfire through the establishment, whether that be mainstream media, academia, or the entertainment industry. Any sense of authentic European identity has more than fallen out of fashion. If there is to be any spiritual rejuvenation for Western men, then the topic of identity will have to be addressed. But how is it that those of us who look to Buddhism as an esoteric path reconcile the affirmation of identity with the Buddhadharma, which appears to deconstruct identity? First of all, let's bring up two definitions of identity. First, a name or persona, a mask or appearance one presents to the world, by which one is known. Second, the difference or character that marks off an individual or collective from the rest of the same kind. Selfhood, sense of who something or someone or oneself is, or the recurring characteristics that enable the recognition of such an individual or group by others or themselves. To begin with, let's get to the root of what Buddhism is doing when it deconstructs identity. The basic premise is that we all possess Buddha nature, which is a perfectly pristine state of mind, the enlightened mind itself. We all already have this innately within us, yet we have many layers of conditions, attachments, and concepts that obscure it. Let's look at a quote from Swan Hua, and when you listen to it, consider identity as an aspect of the false thinking mind. Ananda thought the false thinking mind was the real mind. The Buddha told Ananda, "That is not your mind." What is it? It is just the empty false appearance of dust objects before you. Those appearances manifest from your false thinking and delude your true nature. From beginningless kalpas until now, you have always taken that for your mind. To do so is like thinking a thief is your son, and it makes you lose the knowledge of your eternal source. That source is the eternally indestructible precious nature, the enlightened bright mind. For that reason, you appear and disappear endlessly in the six paths of the turning wheel. Thus, the purpose of Buddhism is to remove these layers of falsehoods and obscurations, which it does through a process of methodical deconstruction. This brings you to direct realization of the awakened mind, which has always been there beyond and behind your ignorance. Identity, in the context of the first definition, is a concept that acts as an obscuration if one is totally attached to it. If we take the mask or appearance to be who we are in the absolute sense, then we are laboring under a false view. When this happens, identity is hindering enlightenment and must be deconstructed, which is to say, seen for what it really is on the ultimate level. Now, it must be understood what deconstruction really means, which is simply the process of attaining right view and insight into the ultimate as elaborated in the doctrine of two truths. It means the dismantling of false or conventional concepts, which aids us in casting aside the attachments, aversions, and ignorance that obscures our innate Buddhahood. What this doesn't necessarily mean is the total doing away with identity. What it should do for us is reveal the illusory nature of identity and provide insights into how we may reframe the concept in accordance with our active work as bodhisattvas. Identity in the context of the second definition does not have to be an obstacle to enlightenment. The uniqueness of your own personal, collective particularities and character is only a hindrance if your mind makes it one. It is, however, definitely an obstacle to have attachments to this identity to the point that it generates a wrong view because you think you have found out who you are in some absolute sense. This is an error that very many political identitarians make, which unfortunately is the basis of their entire ideology and the reason success continues to elude them. This type of error is fundamentally about mistaking the conventional for the ultimate. This is among the most dangerous of spiritual mistakes, because what is effectively happening here is that one is locking himself in a mental prison and then brainwashing himself into believing he is free. In this case, he has fully bought into a wrong view and has total confidence in it, thereby making it virtually impossible to correct the view. It is so dangerous because we cannot hope to make progress on the path if we ignore humility and remain convinced we already know the way. So, to be clear, identity in the context of one's unique particularity form is not what Buddhism is deconstructing. Identity in the context of mental attachment to the concept of your unique particularity form is what Buddhism is deconstructing. As a Buddhist practitioner, I still see identity in this particular understanding to be very important. I see it as an exoteric, conventional level understanding that is used as a way to navigate in and interact with the world. People are unique, and it is through that uniqueness that they interface with reality. To absolutely negate this, as some interpretations of Buddhism do, is, in my opinion, unskillful in the context of upaya and counter to the Buddhist doctrine of two truths. What we should do is see identity as a tool. It is merely this set of characteristics by which a person or thing is made recognizable or known, and a fact of conventional reality. If a bodhisattva is going to be effective operating in the world, then it makes sense to utilize all of the tools at his disposal. In the end, there should be no issue reconciling the merits of why identity is seen to be important with the merits of why Buddhism deconstructs it. It is simply a matter of the former relating to the exoteric level, while the latter relates to the esoteric level.